A few more? My love has come along. My lonely days are over. Life is like a song. Skies above the blue. My heart is wrapped up in blue. That I look to you. I found a dream that I could speak to. Dream that I could call my own. I found a thrill to press my cheek to. That I have never known. Yeah, you smile, you smile. Then the spell was cast, and here we are again. You are my I found a dream that I could speak to. Dream that I call my own. I found a thrill to press my cheek to. A thrill that I have
Wade Preston, everyone. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Should be.
Everyone, take a seat. Everyone, take a seat in the back there. Good evening, and thank you so much for being here in person and online. We're live streaming this event, so we're really excited about this. My name is Rich Klein. I'm here with my esteemed co-author, Lisa Glass. Before we get into our presentation, our speakers, it's going to be a really fun night. We are going to bring Wade back. How about another hand for Wade Preston, by the way? I want to just first acknowledge some people who made this night happen and made a lot of nice things happen for Lisa and I since we started this book. First of all, Lee Gundell. You here, Lee?
Yeah.
Lee, raise your hand.
Yeah.
Lee is a chief reference librarian here.
You just gave me a promotion.
Not done yet.
Thank you.
Upon learning about our book, and that was through Cynthia Pauls, who wrote a great article about it. She's here too. For the Massapequa Observer. Thank you, Cynthia. Cynthia made the connection between Lisa and I and Lee. And Lee then gave us this opportunity tonight to have this event, and we're thrilled. At the same time, he gave us the opportunity to display our work, which is the entrance of the Central Avenue branch of this library. You should all check it out. It's going to be going on until May 31st. So thank you so much, Lee, for all you've done for us thus far and for making this happen. So also we have some great stories to share with you tonight about growing up here from some special guests. And since we want this to be interactive, at the end of the presentation, we're going to hand this mic over to anyone in the audience who wants to talk for a couple of minutes about their story growing up in Massapequa. It'll just make it a lot more fun to hear from everybody. So this event is being streamed live. It's being recorded on YouTube. So anybody who wants to watch this after the event, it's going to be on our Massapequa Facebook page and elsewhere. And we did the book. We're doing this because we want people to know about this baby boomer generation that, at least I believe, had a lot to do with how Massapequa is today. And looking around this room, I'm seeing people here who started out here in 1949 and started and stayed here and still live here through generations. So it really was the baby boomer generation, I think, that had a big influence on making Massapequa what it is. It's clear that through the 50s through the 60s, our parents sought a better life for themselves and their first post-war babies. I moved out here when I was 1 month old from Manhattan, but my dad's pharmaceutical company's sales territory moved to Nassau County. I grew up on First Avenue between Illinois and Walker. Now, I was in District 23, and I was the last house in the district. But my next door neighbors went to Farmingdale, so I had a lot of friends from Farmingdale. I just want to acknowledge two people in the audience tonight. One is that next door neighbor, Josephine Logano, who was the Farmingdale person. My mom, Jerry Klein, who was dragged at me by my father back in '61. So thanks for both being here. Lisa grew up on Ocean Avenue at Massapequa Park. Because I learned there's 2 Ocean Avenues in town, right? Three, 2 Harbour Lanes work, yeah. Between Pittsburgh and Cypress, I remember, right? So Lisa and I were thrown together in September 1966 at Carmen Road School in Mrs. Press's class, if anybody remembers her from Carmen. We love Mrs. Press. But the first person who greeted us every day at Carmen Road School was this gentle giant named John Pizzallo. And we are so honored to have him here with us tonight. John Pizzallo, our beloved principal, the only principal of Carmen Road School. Thank you for your support so far for the last 2 years since we started this book. We're just really honored. We're also honored tonight to have with us Bill Culfer, the president of the Massapequa Historical Society. Bill, are you here? Bill's going to make some remarks later. We also invited some of our essayists to talk about the book and talk about their experience tonight. First of all, David Reedman here in the front, Massapequa High School 81. He's a hotel executive, and you guys should know David is one of the driving forces, if not the driving force, between the wonderful career day, alumni career day they have at the Ames campus of Massapequa High School every year. So, David, keep up the good work. And we had a lot of fun. Lisa and I talking about the book just a few months ago at Ames. So thank you, David, for being here. And of course, we're thrilled to have a Burn of 79 classmate, Wade Preston. Thank you, Wade, again. He's Wade's going to talk as well about some of his experiences here. So, one other person I wanted to acknowledge before we get started is Carol Stark Genitasio, also a great wealth of information. Carol, can you just wave? Good. Carol didn't really want to wave, but that made her do it anyway. Carol runs the largest Facebook page in this town. It's about 6,500 members. It's bigger than any newspaper in this town. I talk about, I'm a former newspaper man, so she's got the circulation. So if anything's going on in Massapequa, and Carol's, you want to get it out there, Carol's page is the one to do it with. A couple of people who couldn't make it here tonight, I just want to quickly acknowledge the infamous Al Bevilacqua. Could not make it, he wanted to be here, he was one of our essayists in the book. Everybody knows Al Bevilacqua, Massapequa High School, who actually started high school in Massapequa and then became the famous wrestling coach, and then the famous representative of the Seinfeld episode. Also, Tom Terwilliger in Denver could not make it, and Allison Brew, who I want to acknowledge, who also is a big Massapequa cheerleader. She runs the Massa Picnic every year at Marjorie Post Park in September, so you guys should check that out as well. And so from there, I just want to tell you a little bit, and Lisa's going to pick up in a minute, so I'm going to hand the mic over to her. We started this book, and the idea was, Lisa and I, of course, grew up together, but we lost touch. We met at one of the reunions, and through Facebook, I noticed that Lisa just had these amazing wildlife pictures of the Massapequa Reserve and beyond. And I was taking pictures upstate New York, and I gave her a call one night. I said, why don't we do a book about Massapequa, but make it about the baby boomer generation? And we had this idea to go around town taking shots, and we had some personal setbacks in our lives, and we finally got it going in 2014, right? And just started shooting, schools, places of worship, restaurants, recreational memories. And then we got pictures from, we had a lot of pictures, of course, from Facebook and people like Carol, but then we didn't want to copy what was on Facebook. We were trying to get stuff that was a little bit different. And so some people sent in aerial shots. Again, Steve Hirschbein had these amazing aerial shots, which we're going to show you in a little while, of some of the early Massapequa as well. So with that, I want to turn it over to Lisa. We're going to, we're just going to go through a few shots that I missed and clip. But yeah, this is just so appropriate. I think Alec Baldwin bought this, from what I understand.
He did buy it.
Yeah.
And his secretary, Summer, Summer, would call up the library in connection with it to carry out the transaction. So
Really?
it was very interesting. Yeah.
What year was that taken?
You guys know what year that was? I think I stole that from someone. Anybody know?
You know what?
I always look at the way people are dressed and try, the cars, and try to figure it out.
I can
just
tell you
want
they
to point out the
commissioned it
children
in
up there.
61.
61?
They commissioned it in 61, but I don't know what year that is from.
Great shot.
It's a great
One of
shot.
many great shots that we have. And by the way, for those of you interested, the Massapequa Historical Society also has some great photos in the Central Avenue branch that we just donated, and Bill's going to talk about that a little later. But we're very lucky because there's just some great stuff going on here. Yes.
I lived across the street from a woman named Nell Doniker, and she was the librarian for that for many, many years. How cool is that?
Very good. Wow. Thank you. So it's that's my first step. This is Lisa and I in kindergarten. Yeah, thanks for the socks, Mom. Yeah, really. This is where we met Mr. Basaldo every day, behind, in front of that big window. And that's Mr. Basaldo's first class. Can you tell us, is this common road or your own?
Did you pick that up today?
Of course. You put it on Facebook,
Yeah, I got a lot of reactions.
What year was this?
1956, 57.
Wonderful. Great shot.
Who was that guy in the back?
Well, you were a teacher, they're not principal, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
See?
Great shot. So we're going to hand the mic over to Lisa now. Lisa did most of the school shots because she lives here year-round. Yeah, so I'll let you take it
Well,
from here.
I actually do most of the school shots because, unlike Richard, I know to take pictures of schools when there's no children in. Just putting that out there. I know how not to get pulled over by the police. So
There was no,
since I live nearby, I went on holidays and things like that when there were no children around because I prefer not to be pulled over by police.
and you get arrested though. I called Larry.
He was very late coming to the house and it was because of a little incident. But this picture was given to us by Mr. Pasadlo. And I know we'd like us to call him John, but some old habits die hard. Have to call him Mr. P or Mr. Pasadlo. And we were trying to recreate the exact same shot, but there's actually a big playground there, you can't really get it. But our whole idea with taking pictures of the schools and other things was to really try to, you can go to the next one.
Yeah, sure, just.
Was to try to bring you back to, for those of you who went to schools, okay, Birch Lane, who went to Birch Lane? There you go. Okay, now I just have to bring this up, and actually Bill will talk about this also. Did you ever notice that many of these schools look exactly the same? There's a reason for that. Bill will fill you in. And I never noticed it until I started taking pictures and I brought them home and I had them on my computer and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, what school is that? Because they all look exactly the same. Some of the schools they have added on to, but we were really trying to bring people, especially those who aren't lucky enough to still live here, to bring them back to their childhood and remember, oh yeah, I remember going in that front door right there. I remember going in that front door. Who went to Uncle? See, we got Uncle people. We were trying to bring you back to your childhood. That's why, yeah.
I remember the day we planted that tree in the first one with Bud Hillman,
This one?
all the way down, by the auditorium down there.
Oh, the one all the way down there?
That was the first Earth Day.
This one right here? Right.
Yep, to the right of that one, just to the right, right there, that scraggly looking thing, yeah.
Oh, it's not scraggly, it's beautiful in real life.
See it up close.
Although it might just be because we made it black and white that it looks beautiful. Can't see it, it's half dead.
I live right next door. If you went down a little bit further, you'd see my house.
See that? But I mean, our whole goal was really to remind you of your childhood, not even through modern pictures, but we really want you to remember way back. Fairfield was a beautiful, it's a gorgeous school. Bill has some interesting information about that as well. And that is really one of those beautiful schools in the area, and completely different than the others. It's like a Sesame Street thing. Which one of these is different than the others? Eastlake, also an interesting story about Eastlake. We might have to bring Bill up
Yeah,
in a
let's Bill,
minute.
come on up, if you don't mind.
Who went to Eastlake?
Told us
I
a
know,
great
Wade
story.
did.
Bill, come on up, just to,
See, we've got a couple of Eastlakes.
there's a story we've learned about Eastlake
Yes,
that we didn't
this is-
know until tonight.
We have to give this over to Bill because it's just.
I can do it without a mic, I got a big mouth.
I don't need a.
Could you just go over here, because we have some live streamers over here, so maybe
Oh,
come behind us.
okay. Oh,
People don't-
I didn't
people on the
realize
internet.
you were.
Yeah, we're live.
Let me do that. Okay. Yeah, Eastlake, in some respects, is kind of unique. It took the longest to finish of the so-called modern schools because they couldn't get steel. And it's actually the delay in Eastlake that causes Common Road, Umpqua, all those schools that look exactly alike. When I believe it was John McKenna and Al Berner and Dr. Lockhart got together and they found George DePel, who designed a school that could be built without steel right after World War II. And those buildings were put up to solve the population boom that was going on. And they weren't meant to last forever, but they certainly have. And they are to this day, they're magnificent buildings. Eastlake, what was interesting, because of the delay, the kindergarten rooms in this piece of the school over here was somewhat functional. All of this is added years later. Conklin Hall burned down in Farmingdale, which is part of the SUNY at Farmingdale. And they needed classroom space. And the district actually had Eastlake function as a classroom, replacing Conklin Hall, before it ever opened as an elementary school, which I always thought was really cool, because I couldn't understand why I lived on Eastlake. We had all this traffic. And it was all kids going back and forth to Conklin Hall, which was at that time Eastlake.
Okay, who else has, I never heard that before. Did anyone else ever hear that? It explains a lot. It does explain a lot. But, and the George Dippel, however you want to say it, he was the designer of all those other buildings that all look exactly the same. So he got paid a lot of money to design one building, basically.
Very good office.
Yes, very original
Were they all built at the
architect.
same time?
Yeah, pretty much all around the same time.
Okay, this right here, this is the construction of Hawthorne. Who went to Hawthorne?
Oh, really?
There we go. That's, and notice the cars. So this is the construction of Hawthorne. Do we have the modern day picture of Hawthorne or no? We don't. Okay, who went here? For junior high, yes, who said it? Ames. Oh, yeah. Yes, that is a beautiful window right there. That was a Richard picture, and this is in between Ames and Lockhart right there. Keep going. Okay, magnificent school. Bill, can you tell them what the deal was with
This
this
is
school?
Fairfield. Well, it wasn't Fairfield. It's Massapequa Avenue School. If you got nothing to do in September, early part of October, this school will celebrate its 90th birthday. And we'll be putting an historical marker, hopefully right where the flagpole is, which I think is over here.
Yeah.
No, it's very cool, now it's right in front,
Well,
in front of that front door.
This is the original school building.
Yeah.
There's an addition, there's a lot of additions, but there's one down here, and that's where the flagpole is now, on the addition. But that, you're right, that is the original front.
Well, the existing right now, the flagpole's all the way out in front of that door by that road, by Massapequa Road.
You mean it's just not in the picture? I didn't find
Yeah,
it.
I think the photographer might be.
I might have been leaning against it, it's possible.
That explains everything.
I was the scoutmaster on that building for 15 years.
One of the things I love about this school is Dr. Lockhart, who
Bless
is
you.
just a fabulous man. When boys started getting 6th grade, 7th grade, whatever, he thought there should be an industrial arts program in the school. So in the basement of this building, he knocked a hole in the wall, and he had a shop built down there where he could teach industrial arts. And when you think about today, how safety conscious we are, everybody's in seatbelt and all the stuff, all the boys that wanted to take industrial arts had to go out of the building, walk all the way around, climb through the hole in the wall, which had no doors, no exits, no nothing, but Dr. Lockhart did a great job of teaching shop then.
Boys are gonna feel
It was a tougher breed then. We were all a lot tougher then. Okay, everyone this is Lockhart. Yes.
My dad's 81, he moved out to Massapequa when he was like 3. He went
Really?
to Fairfield, he graduated from Fairfield, and there was no high school. He had to go to Amityville High School.
Yeah, because Carol, you did that too, right?
No,
No, you didn't go there. No.
I was here when we
did that, but I was.
Well, you're not that old. And actually, just my father, in 92 now, he actually used to go hunting in Massapequa. So, I mean, when he was a kid, there was
Yeah,
nothing.
my father had a chicken coop.
So those are the bullet holes in
But, well, you know, in the 20s, you know, I mean, that's what you did.
this. Speak to the mic for a minute.
Oh, no one can hear me.
Yeah.
Can you all hear me though? Okay, go to the next one.
Okay, sure.
Okay, here's another shot of Ames, which now, as you all know, is a ninth grade center. It used to be, we used to have our 2 junior highs, McKenna and Ames. We went to McKenna. Who went to McKenna? Who went to Ames?
McKenna has it.
McKenna actually beats out Ames. And then, of course, once we got out of there, they mixed it all up again, and they split us up to go to the 2 different high schools. It made no sense. Now all the kids go to the same high schools, and my kids actually did go to these schools. Here's our John P. McKenna,
Great shot.
which, you know what, I tried to make it look old, and I think I succeeded in that one. That looks pretty much the way it did when I was there.
Yeah, I just want to
Change
touch on
nothing.
for a second. That was really the goal of the book. You know, we're trying to find these old places that look somewhat the same and give them a different look as best as we could for the places that still existed. So that's what we tried to do, especially with the schools. Sure.
And good old Burner. We all loved our Burner. Okay, you can keep going. Okay, this is the Ames campus. Ames is all over there, isn't it?
Yeah, not
We
a,
got a lot of Ames.
well, it's Massapequa High School.
Well, it's the Ames campus of
Yeah.
9th grade. Okay, now we have the Massapequa High School, which those of you who went to Massapequa High School know that now that's the only high school we've got. Which is fine, my children graduated from there and very happily so. Okay, move on to the next one. And then we had those friends who didn't go to the public schools, who went to the various parochial schools, which we didn't want to leave them out. And then here we have one of my favorite places.
Yeah. favorite buildings to mine.
Okay, has everyone been to the Old Grace Church? If anyone who hasn't, seriously go and visit it, 'cause it is spectacular. Go inside, Bill will show you around. It is spectacular. And Bill, can you just tell everyone a
Yes,
little
thank
bit about it, because it's really,
Yeah, it's, well,
Anybody on the site, you know,
Yeah, I'd love to.
so people see it. Yeah.
It was built in 1844, okay, and it's Grace Episcopal Church. It didn't look like this when it was first built, all right? There was no steeple. This part of the building didn't exist, and the wings on the side didn't. It was just a little kind of a rectangular building. And in 1901, they added the steeple, the entrance on the front, a little sacristy on the side. But other than that, it is the original building. Even the lights inside are the original whale oil lamps that were converted to electric. Okay? Yeah, and it's, you know, these folks who, I wish everybody in this room would write a book or tell their story about Massapequa. When historians look at this 100 years from now, they're not going to just go by what's in the Encyclopedia Britannica. They're going to look for your stories and their story. And that's how they really get the flavor of what an era was like. So I'm encouraging all of you to go home and write something, send it to me, we will keep it in our archives. But an interesting thing about them referring to this as a baby boomer community, it is the oldest baby boomer community around. And I say that because Massapequa was founded in 1696. It was actually purchased from the Indians in 1650. All right, in 1696, it was the dowry of Freelove Townsend to her husband, Thomas Jones, who the beach is named after, and who is buried behind this church. Okay, and so is she, come to think of it. But our whole community, all these things we've just looked at, essentially are the estate of that one family. There are no homes. There is nothing but there. If you go to the library, and you can look at our photo exhibit, you will see some of them on display there. And that community ran from what is today Jones Beach and that barrier island, all the way up into Farmingdale, into Plain Edge, Island Trees. It's all one family. It's not until the late 1800s when they start moving out and they sell off what is now downtown Massapequa and Ocean Avenue, south of Sunrise, a little bit north, that it becomes a community with homes. And we have a few hundred people living here. They try to develop, World War I gets in the way. After World War I, they try again, World War II gets in the way. By the time World War II ends, everybody's looking for a place to come. This community that at that point is close to 300 years old is truly a baby boomer community. So in the early 1950s, Massapequa is the fastest growing community in the United States. So what really happened is you had, when I started going to school here, where the high school was one of the estate houses. It was George Stanton Floyd Jones's home, known as Sewan. And that was where first, second, and third grade, I believe, was. I went to kindergarten. Carol doesn't believe this, but it's true. I went to kindergarten in the carriage house off the side of that building. That got torn down while I was still in kindergarten, because Amityville refused to allow any more of our students to go there. So they also went to Baldwin, I believe, Nepham, and you must know more about this than I do. And I'm trying to remember where up north, maybe Island Trees. Or there are 3 or 4 high schools you could choose from. So we went from about 1,500 students, say, in 1950 to 1960. I think we were up to 17,500. And we were well over that in the 60s.
What was the peak of the student population?
Well,
Would you say?
we're researching that now. I don't actually know when. It's sometime in the, Mr. DeSalvo would know a lot more about it than me. Probably between the late 1950s and the mid 1960s. when Berna had it, needed a second high school, we couldn't put them in anymore. We're in the process too, if any of you have school stories, Wilma Deal, I don't know if any of you know Wilma. She's working on a book on the history of the school district. And so we're looking for all the stories. Anybody's got some, ship them.
Thank
The church has stood through it all.
Thank you so much. That's good information.
And that's just the front of Old Church, which
Great.
I just think it's a magnificent building. And actually, the inside is even more spectacular. Just have to say that. And then, of course, we tried to cover all bases and get all of the temples, the churches, whatever. Actually, the temple that Rich and I went to is no longer a temple. It is now Center Point Church. But they were nice enough to let us go in, and we checked everything out. It looks completely different. But the outside of the building is exactly the same.
And I think we got actually almost every church in town.
I think so.
Massapequa, we did
We didn't want to leave
we
anyone
got a
out.
lot of them, like you look at the book, and it's just a little, another spread from the book.
And I'm sure many of you went to Our Lady of Lourdes. That was where half the people already went. And all of these, I mean, these are all familiar, I'm sure, to many of you.
Did you forget that?
Yes, Our Lady of Lourdes. Then we go on to our firehouse, which I'm gonna let Rich, because Rich took a bunch of pictures of the firehouse.
Actually, I have a question like this. This one I didn't take a picture of it. What year is this? Anybody know? Is this one we grabbed for you guys at the Historical Society? Anybody know about this picture?
When the firehouse was built,
Yeah.
I believe 35, 39.
I think it was 35, yeah.
Yeah. That was also a school. When
I
I
went
was
to-
going to school, upstairs above the Hicksville Road headquarters house was used for school.
I went
So
to
was
school
Ford
there.
Annex.
Did you?
Yeah,
I love
And the carriage house Bill was talking about.
right, and Wiley Hall, which used to sit next to Grace Church, we had no school space at all. That's why those 4 schools were so important.
Thank you.
Wait, you know what, I just have to add. My oldest, although, he's 30, but my oldest actually went to 6 schools because they were just reorganizing.
Mine too.
So you poor people went through that many schools, but it was because there wasn't room.
I changed schools in the middle of the year as they opened.
That's horrible.
They bust us everywhere.
That's horrible. Okay, so you
No, so really, what we try to do in the book is, for those of you who haven't seen the book, we started out with the schools. We did what we call where we prayed, where we played. Then we also did most of the firehouses, as well as the many memorials, the beautiful memorials around town, the war memorials, the 9/11 memorial, and so forth. So it's a little blank there. And then we'd also try to do a little bit of the neighborhoods, which has signage, but some places don't have the signage. There's another shot that Lisa took in Nassau Shores. So what we're getting into now on the slides is just some shots that we took from the book to give you a flavor. This was a shot that I took between McKenna and Hawthorne. I had a lot of memories there. I played a lot of basketball. Although I still can't forgive Coach Sweetie at Burnham High School for cutting me from the team in 7. I was the last guy cut. I was really mad. So that's my story. Great job by Lisa, of course, Big Chief Lewis. Does anybody have any history on this they could add in? From when this was put up and the real estate person who was responsible for this?
Well, it is Big Chief Lewis, the original, I can't remember his first name. But, he looked at this as kind of a representation of what Tacapusha might have looked like.
Interesting.
But he was very involved with a fellow named Gene Clegg, who owned the Massapequa markets here. There was a couple of guys in that group. And there was some terrible storms out west. And a lot of people were left homeless and rivers overflowed and tornadoes. And he and these guys organized convoys, really, of aid supplies to these people. And Lewis went out there and met some of the local Indians, and that got him into this love, and he started bringing the empty trucks back with some of this stuff in it.
How interesting is that?
This is a shot, this is maybe just.
One of the many pump houses in the preserve. Is there all over the place? And do most people associate the preserve with those pump houses? I always did. I don't know why. I think they were always red. Now, usually they're graffitied, and then they paint them red, and then they're graffitied again. So it depends on when you go. I tried to go when it was nice and clean and done. But you know what, even though the building is kind of derelict in looking, but it's a very peaceful place right there. That's right up by, this is the one that's right up by the railroad tracks. Okay, can you go to the next one? And everyone knows this bridge is the one that goes from Brady into the south part of the preserve. Okay,
Wow.
Tobey, we all love Tobey, right?
Yeah.
Even though I always say, it really, going in there, thank you for visiting, it's a little sad, because in my head, when I look at this, even though this was taken today, I'm sure many of you can relate your childhood memories to, there were two different ways of looking at these tunnels. When you're coming in and you're going to paradise, and then when you're going back home and you see that sign and you gotta go to the car that's like hotter than, you know what? It's like going to a horrible place, yeah.
The greatest thing was going through there as a kid and hearing the echo.
Well, you had to say echo.
Voices, yeah.
You had to just go echo.
Oh, you were too young and you just screamed.
Well, I will tell you that as I was taking these, and I took some others recently, I had to, yes, I did that.
Yeah, and in the book, there's a really nice spread of Tobey. This is just one of
And
about 5 or 6
actually-
shots in some year. You want to show this one?
This one right here,
Yeah, it's nothing like showing the real thing.
there's Tobey, that's the current pavilion at Tobey. Which,
Basically, show them here to the people online if they want to see.
this is,
Over my head.
obviously, this pavilion was not there when we were all kids. But it is quite beautiful, and it's very peaceful when you're there, especially when I went, when it was a little bit cold. So it's always that's why we live in Massapequa, so we can go to the beach. Okay,
I
next.
think Tobey was one of the beaches where if you had a boat, you could launch it like at John J. Burns,
Oh, yeah.
and then go across and go to the bayside, dock your boat, and then go over to the ocean. Many fond childhood memories.
See, we didn't have a boat. We just got in that camper and went to
I
the
know.
To be fair, my dad, after the space program died, my dad went into insurance, and the first thing he did was appraise cars, and he appraised a sunken boat.
Oh.
And the guy said, well, do you want it? What do you give me for it? And the guy, my dad said, I'll take it off your hands, but I'm not gonna give you anything for it. And the guy went, oh, okay. And my dad fixed it, and we had a boat. So we didn't pay nothing for it.
Yes,
Save the rest
actually,
of that
Wade,
story.
Dad, and
We
mine
can come up
both
with
worked at
That's-
Grumman.
That's the whole story.
That's a child.
That's why we had a boat.
Thank you, it's a great piece.
But I just want to say, because Grumman was another thing that many of us had in common growing up. Many of our fathers, mothers worked at Grumman. Anybody in here, their moms or dads worked at
I
Grumman?
worked there.
See? My dad worked on the lunar module. I have the big poster that has all that information on it. And I have a million things related to Grumman at my home. And you know what? Our parents were proud to work on that lunar module, and that was a huge thing. Huge. Okay, I'll get back to this in.
So now we're in recreation, just a hodgepodge of stuff. I actually, because I've been away for many years, and I came back looking for 300 bowl. Anybody bowl a 300 bowl? I'm like, where is it? And by the way, does anybody, I'm still trying to figure this out. What is there now in the spot that it was in? Does anybody know what is it?
There's a large men's clothing store there now.
It's the Excel.
I know I passed, but I can't, because all the strip mall.
There was a pet store there when I was visiting.
So I discovered also that there was another bowling alley in Massapequa because, sometimes you didn't get very far, or as far as your bicycle would take you. So there's another bowling alley here. I'm like, what? And I discovered Massapequa. And actually, one of the people who wrote in the book, Steve Greenhouse, the New York Times, he wrote in the book about this bowling. He lived right near there, apparently. He used to bowl here.
I worked there for a long time.
I'm sorry?
I worked there for.
Oh, really? Yeah, so it's nice to manager, actually. Sure, so get fun with that. So this is just some recreational shots that Lisa took. Took one on the top, I took one on the bottom. Just Marjorie Post, and again, to remind you about that picnic we have every year in September that Allison Brew runs.
But I also want to point out, all these things are outdoors because we actually went outdoors.
Yes.
Unlike the current generation, many of them do not. We were always outside. Any excuse to be outside. Bowling was a rainy day. Other than that, we were outside doing something, whether it be skating, which I was very bad at, but I did it anyway. But all these things, that's why for us, that's our memory. But for the kids today, that is not their memory, sadly.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Yeah, and then we just tried to get some of the beach areas, so this is, Biltmore Beach Club, you know. When we went out shooting, some days were nicer than others, so we just we got lucky, and for some of them with the lighting, and others were a little tougher. And I just love this shot, because I actually spent a lot of time in Grady Park. But what I liked about it, when I found, just kind of walking around the park, you know, because it has all the teams and the years that they won the championship. Does anybody play Little League Baseball here? Okay. Anybody's team up there? I'm just curious. Anybody, looks like.
Can't see it from here.
So,
Probably.
Well, I don't know, because it's kind of sad that maybe the last champions were in '64.
Oh, then no.
I guess it's sort of like the Dodgers, right? Yeah, it must have been the Yankees or something like that to us, but.
No, that was the senior division, that was me.
So that was a fun shot for me because it had all the dates up there. And because I play a lot of basketball here, I had to take Grady Park, Burns, Grady Park, just a color shot. Caroons Lake, of course, and Lisa has so many. Actually, I'll tell you a little funny story. You know, this was a labor of love doing this book, and Lisa and I actually did battle back and forth in the most diplomatic way possible about, because sometimes we had duplicate shots. And I said, I really like this shot, can you just let me, and she was really nice to let me have a Caroons Lake shot. But she has many of these shots. And you'll see in the book also how many amazing wildlife shots from here and other places around town, so. And thank you for fixing it up a little too. Lisa has a thing about horizons, so she straightens my pictures out, you know, it's a little secret, you know.
This one we didn't cut them. But actually, Bill, does everyone know the story about this island?
Gilligan's Island.
I would love Bill to tell everyone the
I
story.
don't know if I'm gonna tell the same story you're thinking of.
Take the mic anyway.
You're the one who told me, so
Oh,
I know the
okay.
story that you
Well,
told me.
first of all, I have to tell you, historically, it's not Caroons Lake. Caroons never owned the lake. It is technically, originally Jones Pond. It was a man-made lake built in 1836, hand dug, by David S. Floyd Jones' family, and it didn't have an island. He was married to DeWitt Clinton's daughter, okay? And she wanted the lake as the backdrop to their mansion, which was absolutely incredible, and sat over here. She died before the house was finished. He remarried a few years later. Incidentally, this man had 18 children by 4 different wives. Okay? And she wanted the lake. So the lake is, wanted the lake, she wanted the island. So they put the island in the lake, and it's Mary's Island after Mary Jones, who was the husband of Dave. But it's technically, legally now, and has been for a long time, Massapequa Lake, and always will be. The Caroons family bought the house. They never bought the lake. They never bought the land. They just bought the original mansion.
It's all the PR.
That's it.
Yeah.
Who gets it?
But really, I mean, when Bill had told me the story, all I thought to myself was, can you imagine the work? I mean, in the 1800s to create a lake and then to create an island, just because his wife said, I'd really like to look at a pretty island in my lake. It must be nice. It must be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you, yeah. Thank you for sharing that, that's a great story. Anybody recognize this? I actually took this less than a year ago, and it looks exactly the same, but I shot it black and white because that's how I remembered it. It was a big black cube. I have to tell you, just as an aside, because I don't live here anymore when I come back, and I think for those of us who moved away and come back and visit, it's a different experience. You say, where did this thing go? Where did that thing go? And same thing with the mall, actually. You know, I miss my fountain, and J.C.
Mall's
Penney.
still there.
We used to put pennies in, and the little bridges.
And the ducks, where was the ducks? They got the ducks in there. They said the ducks in the morning.
It's very weird the way Bill changes.
Yeah, it's
And
not the same.
that was moved too, Rich.
Yeah.
That used to turn.
It's, yeah, I don't know if it's, I didn't know if I should have pushed
I
it.
don't think it turns anymore. My guess is somebody got hurt somewhere along the way, so therefore it can no longer turn. That would be my guess. Continue.
Yeah, so this is, getting over North Massapequa a little bit here, just some shots.
Well, that's because, I had to do an A&S pork store because I'm a nice Jewish girl, but since I live in Massapequa, all my nice Italian friends, which was most of my friends, their parents all went to A&S Sports.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter where in Massapequa you lived, that's where you went and got the appropriate prosciutto, okay?
Great.
So, had to have that.
Was this on Broadway in North Massachusetts?
Yeah,
I think it's
Like 3 or 4 blocks, that there used to be Lisa's
Still is.
Pizza.
That's
Yeah.
nearby.
No, Lisa's Pizza.
Yeah, it's further north.
This is one.
This is still there.
This is still there.
And you get your fresh pizza out there everywhere else.
That's what I'm saying, you know, you gotta get all your.
I don't know how long you have to wait online.
So that's the only reason I had to take that picture, because I knew everyone's moms went there.
Yeah, but by the way, I remember this day, actually, there's a couple of funny things about this day when we shot. It's one of our first days out there. And there was a little tiny restaurant down the block, and we said, don't shoot them. Take a picture of that restaurant, it was really funny. So it's okay, I'll take your advice on that one.
There were people hanging out in front, it just seemed like a bad idea.
Yeah, so,
I'll leave it at that.
yeah. A little Massapequa legend, anyway. So this is a part of the fun of doing this book. This was a shot from Steve Hirschbein, right?
Yep.
Steve Hirschbein, who, David, you know from the career day, who comes up every year, wonderful guy. He heard about our book, and I guess, Carol, this may have been on your site originally, I'm not sure.
Those are actually either through the library or the historical society.
They're on the Historical Society. So Steve was nice enough to let us know about them, as we at that time had not known these existed. So this is where we are, Bar Harbor. Yep. Amazing
Yes,
shot.
remember our little covered thing at Bar Harbor?
And of course, my favorite pizza place, I think was right in here somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Mom would take me to Lobel's, I'd get the pizza, right? So, yeah,
What year
a
is
lot of good memories there. Anybody know what year this is, the shot?
This is, I believe, around 1956. I don't, it doesn't look like, yeah, Birch Lane is open, so probably around 56.
And I have a
This is
question.
virtually.
Also, Burns Park behind it, was that started yet, or?
No, at that time,
What was
that was part of the, yeah, 52 acres is what we call it.
52 acres.
But it's part of the Edward F. Lloyd Jones estate. He had a huge mansion, which is now Ace Hardware. And he also owns the mine.
So that was private property at the time?
That was still, yeah, it was up for sale at the time. The
Interesting.
town ultimately paid for it.
I see the water, that's probably where we should have done, so. Yep, love that shot.
Full of bridges.
And the dry cleaner that was on that corner,
Oh,
that
sorry.
had the actual, the things that actually, they did the dry cleaning right there and the racks that moved. That was right off the corner, where the beverage place is now.
You know, it's one thing it kind of is sad to me, because we don't hold on to any buildings for any length of time. I mean, when you really consider how many times, like where Toys R Us is, for instance, how many times has that been reincarnated, Carol, in your lifetime? How many times, I mean, really, it was a zoo, I know, I have this picture of me in Baldwin, I know that. But you know, when you think of how many times things have been knocked down and built back up, even though it's really not that long ago, it's an eternity ago, because nothing is the same anymore.
Did anybody ever go in the basement? You
No,
went to the high school and you know, everybody would go to Pizza Supreme for lunch. All the truck deliveries went underneath it.
really?
There's still a driveway by the post office, and the other one was on the Whitewood Drive side, and in there, the maintenance crew worked. And that night, well, I don't know what year it broke down, but there was a 58 Dodge state body truck. With all the things they've done to the shopping center, the truck is still there. It's still, you can't get in the basement anymore unless somebody in the post office lets.
Oh, see, now we all want to
But
go
it's
there.
down there.
You did, there's a lot of teaching to talk. So, yeah, I love the shot, that's what I just wanted to give us some perspective where we are today. And then
Okay, this is one of the many memorials in Massapequa and Massapequa Park. This is a 9/11 memorial. Has everyone been there and seen it? It's quite beautiful. And sadly, I didn't even know it existed until one day I just happened to go, oh, what is that? What is that pretty thing? And I had to come in and look at it, and it really is breathtaking. Everyone should check it out.
Yeah,
Because we did lose a lot of people in the tower, so it's a memorial to really our town and the other people as well. So on to the other one. Okay, this is just sad. It's gone. It's but a shell. It doesn't even say Friendlies anymore. But I'm sure many of you, when you couldn't go to Christians, you went to Friendlies.
CBF.
Yeah, I know. It was
Were
kind
they
of
cheaper
sad when I
than
went
Christians?
there.
What? Were they cheaper than Christians? I went back in the day.
We went here a lot when I was a kid. You could go past that stair. Okay, now this is Rich's picture. I'll let him. This is in Florence Avenue. Now, who went to Florence Avenue when they were kids? Okay, I'm going to tell on him. Because when I brought him here, he said, I've never been here before. I didn't even know this existed.
Oh,
How do you not know
the
that?
tracks, that's why.
I get back to Massapequa.
What?
He has to get back to Massapequa, because he's never been there.
I was just totally bewildered by the whole thing. But, I mean, it looks nothing like what it did when we were kids. But it is a beautiful park. They've done a lot of work to it. And it's really a great place to just kind of chill out and for the kids to play and for you to just clear your head.
And by the way, that day we shot, we had also noticed, because we're looking on the water, a lot of the sandy damage was right around there too.
Oh, yeah.
So that was really interesting to see, And there were people actually, not in this shot, but some others, just, sunbathing out there, just behind a lot of people sunbathing out there. Anyway, another angle you took.
Oh, but this is this time, yeah.
Well, I figured we had to just at least have a sign so we knew what we were talking about. Well, let me rephrase it. So he knew what I was talking about because I know that place.
Thank you, Phil Hewitt.
Okay, we'll go on to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay,
We got good.
wait. This is one of the people this is Carol.
Still beautiful.
We love this picture and this is in
It's
the
one of our
book.
favorites. Carol, by the way, wrote a beautiful essay in the book. We want to thank her publicly. She just did a great job in helping us, and also the essay was amazing. When you read the rest of it.
Well, because when she was growing up here, there weren't as many houses, so she kept referring to her beach, and I didn't know what she meant until she came to my house to explain what she meant. It's because there weren't houses across the street. It was different than it is today. She grew up at the perfect time.
That beach is across the street from my house. It actually belonged to my next door neighbor who had two girls of his own. He called it Carol's Beach.
See? And wait, I just have to share something which it kind of has to do with this, but it's just kind of funny. When I went to the town of Oyster Bay headquarters, because we were discussing some of our exhibits, and this one girl in the office says to me, there's that girl Carol, and she has that, we from Massapequa website on Facebook, and all those pictures she posts, it looks kind of like where I live. Like she must have lived right near me. And I opened up the book and I said, okay, and I gave her address and she goes, oh my God, that's my house. So, small girl, just had to share
That
that.
was Sharon Best, right?
What?
Sharon?
That was Monica.
Oh, Monica.
I just thought it was very funny.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
No, there was,
Okay, this is more aerial shots of this.
Sears, right?
This is Sears, but I think it was White's there.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone's going, oh yeah, White.
White's Model.
And all I think of White's is my dad gave me a pretzel. From the pretzel guy was always there.
I think this is Jerry Lewis here, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes, those are the days. Let's go to the next one. Okay, now does anyone know what this is?
Some.
But this was from Steve Hirschbein. This particular song is the one that was included in The Pit. Okay, who remembers The Pit? Okay, some of you do, some of you don't. Okay, for those of you who don't know what The Pit was, it is where the mall is now. Used to be this vast wasteland of that. It was that. And there were burnt out cars, and there were a group of kids who used to hang out there that everyone thought was so tough, and they really weren't. Just gotta say that, they weren't as tough as people think. But it was just kind of a hangout for people. And so we had to include this in the book because some of us remember it. This is when gas was 25 cents a gallon, just so you know, and I remember that there was a gas station in front, and my mom used to get gas there all the time. Okay, go on to the next one. Okay, now this picture's kind of interesting. This was given to us by Stephanie.
Yes.
And what's interesting about this is And in the book, we have both. It is this spot has not changed at all, except for the names of the stores. Does everyone know? Yes, it's the bridal suite. Right. It is exactly the same. It's very funny when you see them right next to each other, because the only thing that's changed is the names.
And the cars are cars.
The cars, just a wee
Just a
bit.
little, yeah.
Just a
Love
little
that
bit.
shop.
But actually, you know what? It was the same down to the mailboxes, because I had to shrink down the current one. All the light posts, everything was really exactly the same. I mean, I had to shrink it, the current one down for size, but it's amazing. Nothing has changed there.
Yeah, I just want to say, this was taken by Stephanie Chanowski. Their father took it, because when he came off the train, he was actually a professional photographer himself, and a really accomplished one, so. Shit.
Where is that exactly?
It's on the corner of Broadway and Veterans.
And that's some.
And that's what's from.
This
Wait, here, wait a minute, look. Michael,
Central Avenue.
okay,
Essential.
here's the railroad station. Here's the railroad, and that's where, what you're looking at when you're getting off the train.
Right.
Yeah, Christian's all right for a little bit. Right there, Christian's like-
And you go, and Christian's is around the corner.
Right.
Okay.
I just threw the shot because it was a cute slice of life picture. Maybe somebody here in this room who's in this picture, I don't know. I just, one of these pictures I grabbed because I thought it was just a
It's
cute.
1959.
Yeah. Kind of what, you were talking about. So, the peak of the new generation. That looks so cute.
Look how nice the dress.
Okay, well, this is a picture we included, and my husband is in this picture. What number were you? You were in this. This was a picture I actually had in my pictures, but I was not dating him at the time. I didn't start dating him until I was a senior. But this was the 1975, actually 1974,
Thanksgiving?
the Massapequa burner game in 1974. So that's what that was. Okay.
Yeah. It's Burner, Massapequa, right?
Yep.
And Burner won, just for the record, right?
Did Burner win, Larry? See, you remember, he won. It's because they had him. Okay, does anyone recognize what this is? This is the Sunrise Mall when it was first opened.
So we got Corvettes, Kurtz, right, Kurtz, Corvettes. Macy's, of course, Time Out, we used to hang out, yeah.
And this was a picture Stephen Hirschfein gave us. Obviously, he was in an airplane when he took it. Yeah, it was in his archives.
Great shot, yeah.
Okay, does everyone know Howard Johnson? Right? You went to Howard
I used to have
Johnson?
Johnson all the time, yeah, I ain't not to, yeah. Oh, this is a good story, do you want to tell?
No, you tell me.
Okay. This was a picture given to us by, I think she was one of our classmates, Kathy Stanborough.
Yeah.
Her parents owned, I think it was called the Sweet Shop
It
in
was.
Nassau. And she sent us these great shots. We tried to clean up a little bit. This is a great shot. So we included a couple of those in the book. There's a place that I don't know.
Did anyone know what store? Does anyone
Anybody from the
remember?
shores here?
It was
Yeah, the Sweet Shop, yeah. I don't know the address, but we'll find it. Maybe we'll put, you know, that's
It was on Merrick Road.
yeah, be a good post. Oh, this is yours.
Okay, now
So
you.
we really planned this out perfectly.
Okay, well, the reason that we have this is because my mother had a love of matchbooks and all things matchbook.
Did you smoke?
And no, my mother did not smoke and thought smoking was disgusting. And when my mother passed away a year and a half ago, and I was going through the house, I came upon, those Charlie's Chips container, the Charlie, full of matchbooks. And so these were just a few of the ones from our area.
That's great.
Because she has them from everywhere. My house will go up in flames from all this stuff, I'm sure. But I'm sure many of you remember these restaurants. Nautilus is back, of course. Starlight Diner. Yes, they were very good. Empire Szechuan. They were good until the cockroach took over. And the Seacrest. Who remembers Seacrest? See?
Nailed it.
I got one. Okay, go.
This is-
Okay, does anyone recognize this person? And there he is, getting an award.
Yeah, so I think we're at this point, we pretty much showed you what we wanted to show in terms of our photos. And what we wanted to do for the balance of our time is have some people talk about, for a couple of minutes each, their experience of growing up here. Maybe we'll start with Bill, since you happen to be on the screen. You want to talk a couple of minutes about growing up here?
I'm like at a loss.
Huh?
Well, let you think about it.
All right, we'll bring it
Yeah,
back.
give me a little time.
So I want to bring up David Reederman, who's got a great story, class of '81, and that's why I put a picture up here.
Who is that guy?
Yeah. Tell us just what you got.
Hi, everybody. My name's David Reederman. I grew up here, graduated from Massapequa High School in 1981. My parents moved here in 1965, I want to say. This shot is me working at Peking Park in the Sunrise Mall in 1978. I don't have the t-shirt, it wouldn't fit.
You gotta do
But, yeah, if you ate at Peking Park in the late 70s, I was the kid who washed your dishes and bust the food. So it was a really interesting time in my life. But my parents had taught me from a very early age to just get out there and work, study, do what you have to do to get by, because it was a tough world out there. But anyway, thanks for including that, Rich. It was a little surprising in the front row turning up for Frank Red. Thank you.
It is in the book, though.
It is in the book. But I want to especially thank Rich and Lisa for including me in this. I'm really very, very honored. So, wow, going through this whole presentation, it certainly kicked up the dust, kicked up a lot of really great memories. I grew up on Polo Road. And for those of you who know that section, they're like the UK streets, we used to call them, because all the streets in that section were named after something in the UK, or so I thought. So it was like Surrey Road, Derby, Beaumont, Cambridge, that whole section. So right across the street from St. Rose of Lima. So, you know, my childhood memories were great. I mean, you know, I lived around the block from Cruins Lake. And for those of you, now I know it really wasn't Caroon. So learned a little bit about the place I grew up around the block. Played a lot in the woods. Played a lot of vinyl, spun a lot of vinyl. You know, I think about what it was like back those days. And thank heaven we didn't have Facebook, because, you know, looking at that, you're like, woo, okay, there it is. You know, what can I say? I went to all the schools in the Massapequa area, Birch Lane, McKenna. I was absolutely devastated when I had to go to Massapequa High School because all my friends were going to Berner. But I think I got the best of both worlds because I really got to meet all the kids in the neighborhood. And Facebook, I must say, has really revolutionized reconnecting with people. Ran all of my high school reunions, my 10-year, my 20-year, my 25, and my 30. But for my 35, I'm turning the baton over to one of my classmates, and I'm thrilled about it. But one of the activities that I'm very involved in here in Massapequa is the annual Career Day at Ames. I got involved in its second year, and it's an opportunity to really speak to the kids about the importance of getting out there and finding a job and being responsible and respecting other people and diversity and all that goes with it, all the good things. So my parents sold their home in 2011. They moved to Florida. And when they sold the house, it was kind of a bittersweet experience in that, you know, I was glad that they were moving on, but it was kind of, you know, a little bit of our Massapequa history going in the rearview mirror. But I must say that growing up here has really, you know, shaped and made me who I am. I really have a great life, and I had a great education, a lot of amazing teachers along the way. One that sticks out for me the most is a man named Arnie Herman. He was at Massapequa High School my senior year. He taught a class called Contemporary Problems. And I remember him saying, you can either do community service or write a term paper. And I opted to do some community service. And so I did a volunteer stint at Youth Environmental Services. Does anybody remember that? Okay. So I was on the crisis hotline for about a year. And I gotta tell you, you know, just going through the training and listening to other people and what they were going through, whatever those challenges might have been, really did change my life. And what was supposed to be a 6-month opportunity turned into 3 years of volunteering on the crisis hotline, and it was just amazing. But there are so many different things that I remember growing up here that were just so amazing, and being part of the community has really enriched my life. I moved out as soon as I turned 21. It was one of those rebellious periods in life where I thought I knew everything and I was all that, but I wasn't all that, but I was all I thought about. So I left and, went on to find jobs in the travel industry. And currently I work for a company called Hyatt Hotels and Resorts. And it's allowed me to see the world. But none of that would have been possible without the education and the friends that I made along the way here. So for that, I'm truly forever grateful. I've reconnected with so many different Massapequans at picnics, at Career Day, of course, friends of friends through Facebook, and it's always so much fun. So again, thank you for having me here. It's always an honor and a pleasure, and I look forward to the next one.
Our own piano man, you heard earlier, Wade Preston, to talk a little bit about his essay, his story here. Wade.
Thank you. Thank you.
Could you go behind there so people online can see you too?
I don't know. I kind of poured my guts out in that essay.
Beautiful.
It's heartwarming to hear stories like that. Mine wasn't really quite so. I wasn't exactly a happy kid. I think Massapequa Park was a great place to grow up. You have the influence of the city, but you're not under the urban gun. A lot of room to play. I think it was a really great place to grow up. I think Musicaro's had the best pizza on the planet. Throwing that in there. He wasn't the nicest man in the world, but he made great pizza. Things, and it's funny too, because it was a great place to grow up, but all I could think about was leaving. And I really left. I went all the way to the other side of the country and stayed there for a long time, and it was a job on Broadway that brought me back. But the one thing I want to say, I won't go into my story because it's really kind of dark. And this has actually been a very light-hearted event, and I love all these. Hey, Mom, isn't she beautiful? That's my mom. She made that dress, by the way. And that's Little League, some kind of Little League team. Yeah, my friend Margaret actually pointed out to me, she's like, your mom, you could tell. I always say anything good you find in me comes from my mom. But you can tell she's on her way out to a pretty fancy event, and I'm just covered in dirt. And there she is holding my hand like, it's okay, She's awesome. She's still with us. She lives in Ridge. She's in the early stages of Alzheimer's. But I know that sounds sad, but the only thing really about that is that she asks a lot of the same questions over and over. Other than that, she's delightful. She's in good health. She's happy. She lives by herself in this little house in Ridge, and she plays with her flowers, and she paints magnificently. Who knew? That's when she retired, she realized she actually was a really good artist. What was I going to say? Just that it's really kind of funny. I've lived in a few different places in the country. The south of Los Angeles on the beach. I lived in Chicago in this real fancy high-rise, lap of luxury. I lived in Manhattan in a shoebox that was horrific neighbors, but I had Midtown Manhattan right there at my disposal. I live now actually in rural Pennsylvania, in a farming community, actually, and it's absolutely beautiful. But every time I come back here, I'm like, I kind of want to move back. It's just always, I come back and I'm always like, yeah, you know, for all my bitching when I was a kid, this is actually a pretty cool place. A couple of years ago, I went to the park where they were doing the 4th of July display. They name it after the street, Walker? Walker, yeah, there's a few unofficial names for it. When I was a kid, that was a big gravel pit. And now it's this beautiful green area where they do these kinds of events. And it really struck me standing there, you know, we're all watching the fireworks, and there's all these families in lawn chairs and coolers and all just, I don't know, everybody just seems so happy. It just seems like if I ever grow up, which I never will, but I don't know, I think it would be a nice place to come back to and eventually make home again, you know, full circle. So anyway, that's all I'll say for right now, and I'll bang a few tunes out for you before we leave. So thank you guys for doing that. By the way, Lisa and I go way back. Rich and I have always known one another, but Lisa and I couldn't have come from like different types of cliques of friends, but we've always been really good friends, and she's one of the most lovely people I've ever known, and never judged me for having really long hair and being a big pot smoker and a drunk, and she always was just as nice as could be. And isn't Facebook wonderful? As we've actually, you know, we have a chance to actually reconnect with all of these old friends again. Sorry about that. I was just kidding about the pot. Got a question for me?
Burner or Massapequa?
Burner.
Or 79, like Lisa and I. And by the way, Wade.
Actually, a funny story. They actually graduated me with half a credit short. Reef Schneider brought me into the office. He said, "I see what you're trying to do. Check this out. You passed. We want you out of here." So I got away without going to gym. But my idea, this is how stupid I was. I was like, you know, I'm gonna not graduate by half a credit, so I can come back next year and flirt with all the girls and be, you know, big man on campus with my fancy Valori two-door coupe. What was you were gonna ask me something?
No.
Oh, well, here we
Thank
go.
you. Thank you so much. Well, Wade's gonna play a little more in a couple minutes. I also want to bring up someone. When we did the book, we tried to cover, the goal was to cover most of District 23. But one of my dearest friends in the world, who I've known since I'm 7 years old, happened to show up tonight, and I'm gonna put him on the spot because he's a great public speaker anyway, and he's a business evaluation consultant, and we reconnected. He actually lived next door to my aunt and uncle for many years, and Todd Ringler, who's here, is gonna come up for a couple minutes. We went to camp together. So I didn't have, Lisa mentioned the beach before. I didn't get to go to the beach. I was dragged to the Catskills every year because my parents worked at the camp, which was delightful. But Todd and I spent a lot of summers together. And by the way, Wade, about the pot, we probably outdid you. But
It was a
Todd,
pot-smoking community. That was what everybody did at the time.
especially
you know?
with Burner.
Especially if you went to Burner.
Was it burn or burn out? I'm from Planet.
Todd's from Planet. She's on Planet represent. Anybody else Planet tonight? Okay, good. We want to include Planet.
So North Massapequa, rum bottoms, right? Remember rum bottoms? There we go. That's like that was like the favorite thing. So as Rich said, we've known each other since really
That's seven.
seven or eight, something like that. It's a long time. And I've known his mom obviously for as long. We did get shipped off the island. Our parents felt that it would be better to be in a camp setting. It was a lot of fun as far as that went. So we have a little bit of a different memory. But I always remember just Massapequa in general, you know, thinking about the picture of the bridal shop. What's the bridal shop now? And the Bohack across the street. Above the Bohack was bingo hall, right? My father from the men's club used to work the bingo every week. It was like, that was the thing, right? Another really vivid memory was just on Broadway, a little bit past that corner, there was a hobby shop. That was the hobby shop that my father bought every Matchbox car ever made. And I still have them, the entire set. Actually, my sister just gave them back to me. The whole set is now back together. I had them all out about a month ago. Going, what am I gonna do with these now, right? Because there's more stuff. We have our parents' stuff. So growing up in North Massapequa, firemen, cops, a lot of great memories. I lived down the block. I lived on Dandy Road North. Anybody know Dandy Road North? The Spook House. Okay, so I'm gonna tell a Spook House story.
It's in the book, by the way.
The Spook House is in the book.
No, we didn't put it in the book.
We didn't put the Spook House in the
It
book.
was so overdone, we did shoot it down.
All right, so the Spook House is very interesting because behind the Spook House, everybody, John Melendez, starring John Melendez from the Johnny Carson show, right? He was the band guy. Was it Johnny Carson? Howard Stern, right? It was Howard Stern, but then he was also John Melendez was whatever. He lives behind that Spook House. Okay, so the small world. In 1965, my parents bought the house in North Massapequa. I was a little kid. Remember going to school, elementary school. I went to East Plain, and we lived like 7 houses too far to be bused. So when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, we rode our bikes because our parents said, "Go out and play," right? Not like today, like you said earlier. Kids don't play. 2 stories actually. The first one was back in the day. There was no fencing on that house. It was still a very different house. It was black, but there were 2 Cutlass 442 cars out in front, souped up. You remember these? A black one and a white one. Satan's Curse and Satan's Dream. You can't make this stuff up. That's what the name of the cars. Okay, so that was one thing I remember. And that kid used to whip down the block. One time my father threw a baseball at his car. Kid stopped, hit the brakes, went to get out, and all the men started walking out of their houses. He took off. We never drove down the block that way again. So that was one memory. It was like, it was like summer, springtime. That's one memory. Another memory was, it was a little bit later. They had actually had the high gate, and the town made them put it down to a lower gate. My friend Lonnie Green lived right at the end on Margaret Road, so I would have to ride by their house. It was October, it was starting to get dark, and I'm riding past the house, and all of a sudden I hear ka-chink, and the chains, like somebody was locking the gate. I look over, and the pastiest, whitest people were there. My bicycle was so fast. So 2 memories about the Spook House. I can talk about Massapequa growing up. It was fun, it was great. It was a nice life, it really was. And I look at what my 35-year-old kids are doing now, and I'm like, they did the same thing. We lived in East Islip. They had the whole 1,600-acre park. Go play in the park. Go play. I don't think we do that anymore. And I think children are losing as a result of that. I'm a college professor now, and I see that they're just very insulated. Young people seem to be very, very insulated, and I don't know how we could open up the world to them, but like to be able to explore like we explored would be a great thing.
You know, actually, I think the term, and of course now it's like so controversial, we were the free-range kids. I mean, and now it's like, oh my God, you're letting your kids walk to school and stuff.
Well, what's wrong with that? That's the whole, it's that whole argument. So I don't know if there's, anybody have any questions about North Massapequa, Plain Edge, anything?
What college do you teach in?
I teach in National Community. Okay. I remember the Rum Bottoms fire. Right? I don't know. My friends were in the fire department at that point in time. I getting woken up. Rum Bottoms was in the where Island Recreation. I don't know, it was Island Recreation. 107, just north. The first shopping center north, the second shopping center north.
Yeah, it's on the you know you from Massapequa page. Carol actually found the old and the new, right?
Right, I just happened to be up there, so I took a picture of what it looked like now.
So what's there now? I'm sorry.
Oh, that was the.
What's there now?
It seems to be a repair shop.
It's in the corner of a shopping center that's an L shopping center. So who knows? It was a big space. But do you know what's in there?
Pilatos is over there.
Oh, yeah.
The pizza place has been there forever. I bought my first record in the record store next to Rum Bottoms for $3.99. I was like a palm brain salad surgery.
Yeah.
$3.99. I remember it vividly. Yeah, you like that, right?
That was a big influence.
That was a great memory. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. Oh, Richard Dixon.
Yes.
Richard M. Dixon's right. What's that?
That was up around there.
That was just north of the Oyster Bay.
Was it?
It was even further north than yeah, that was a comedy club, and then it was a bar, a watering hole, I guess we would call that.
Because my friend and I saw
Well, at that time, we didn't know who it was, but it was Eddie Murphy. We realized this later.
Wow. Yeah, that would make sense. Very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was great, man. And are you selling books tonight?
Talk to
Okay,
the
because I told you I wanted to
Yeah.
buy one how long ago,
No, I just want to add about rum bottoms. Todd and I grew up, we all grew up with great music, let's face it.
Yes.
Way, including with, but we were just so, I can't even get on Sirius now. They don't even have a 60s station, it just starts at 7, everything else is golden old.
No, Channel 6. Channel 6 is 6 on 6.
It's still 6, it's, okay,
6
I'm
on
correct.
60, 7 on 70, 8 on
Still love it.
Yeah.
But you mentioned rum bottoms, and I hung out there a lot. And the reason, even if you didn't hang out there, whether it was the Frigate on Front Street, I think it was the other bar, or we go out to Hammerheads. I mean,
Or
we
the
just
OBI.
there's great live music down the island. I don't know if it still exists. It seems like something else that's dying here that I would love to see come back just personally, because there are groups like Zebra and Southern Cross that just blew me away. They're really good bands. And then there guys like Wade, who's just, junior and senior year, battle of the bands we had all the time. So the music scene here was really rocking. And I know my friend Michael Block is here, who writes about music on Long Island as well. So it's good to see you. And so what I want to do now, actually, I wanted to, John, do you want to say a few words? I did. I want to say the best for last of the official presentation, our beloved John Casavo. I know that's the microphone.
Lean on this.
You gotta move the screen now.
Obviously, I'm not a baby boomer. And I wonder why am I here? Remember back in '92 when Perot ran, and they had the first debate. And he introduced his vice president, Stockton, Admiral Stockton. Stockton said, "Why am I here?" I'm here because Lisa invited me to be here. And I guess I can relate. Born in 1931 and starting teaching in 1956. And I think the baby boomers were like 46 to 50 something. And I had said, I better look at, I went to Wikipedia to see what are the boomers anyhow. And evidently 46 and 47, there were like 70 some million of them born across the country. Well, anyhow, here I am, and one of the things I could say that when I grew up in Bethpage and Farmingdale, way back when, Massapequa was a wilderness. And the only reason to come to Massapequa was to go to the Frank Buck Zoo. If any of you remember the Frank Buck Zoo. It was quite a nice zoo, actually, for those of us who lived on a farm and couldn't get into the Bronx Zoo. I guess Frank Buck was that bad. I actually came to Massapequa the first time as a student teacher, my last semester at Hofstra. They assigned me to the Massapequa Avenue, I guess, or Fairfield. And Arthur Raw was the principal at that school then. And I was in a 6th grade class, and it was double sessions then. And that's in 1953, the spring of 53. And I was there just several weeks, and I went with Artie Raw, the principal there. He moved to Eastlake, which was just opening then. And Ruth Young took over as principal at Fairfield for a few years. And then as I went up to Eastlake, I had to find a way to get from Farmingdale to get to Eastlake. And from on Carmen Road, it was still farms. There was no Intercounty shopping center. You had to go all the way down to Sunrise and come back, I don't know, Park Lane or something to get to Eastlake School. And I became my cooperating teacher at Fairfield, at Massapequa, was Jen Foy, or later Jen Lamangeli. I don't know if any of you remember her. And, yes, and later on, she was a colleague of mine as a teacher and then at Common Road School. So at Eastlake, and at Eastlake then, I think I was with a 6th grade class, and I think they went from 4th up to 9th, and they were working their way up to becoming the high school, which they then moved into the high school. Because up to that time, they were going to either Amityville or
Benton, or Freeport, as high school students. So after that, 1953, that's 62 years ago, at student teaching time, I went to the Army. I got out of graduated from high school in June of 53, and I didn't go for a job because everybody was being drafted at that time. And sure enough, come December of 53, I was drafted and started in January of 54 until January 56, which was on the half year. So I went back to start on my master's and applied for teaching jobs. And I applied to Massapequa, and I did get hired for the fall of that year. Common Road School actually opened up in February of 56 for a half year, for the first half year. I was not there until that September. Birch Lane opened at the same time. And interesting, they were mirror image schools. And if you were coming from Common Road, as I used to have to do on occasion, to go to Birch Lane, you would be disoriented going in the front door because you didn't know whether the left or the right. It looked like the same place, but it wasn't. And when I went to Common Road, my first year there, Our Lady of Lourdes was starting as a parish, but they didn't have a church. And Common Road was their church. On Sundays and even holy days of obligation, they would have early mass there at Common Road School. They'd set up all those chairs. And not sacrilegiously, but we used to call, because I had to correct Rich because he mentioned in that little blurb he put on Facebook that I was the first and only principal of Common Road, but that's not true. Walter Stewart was the first principal. He was the first principal for 10 and a half years, and I was the principal for the last 12 years there. And we used to call, those couple of early years when Our Lady of Lourdes had their mass there, we used to call it St. Walter's on the side. But you couldn't do that today. You couldn't have the church in the public school holding their services. Well, as the Common Road, teaching there 4 years, actually in the third year, to fit in with this whole, you mentioned moving back and forth, people moving. As a sixth grade teacher, my third year, the sixth grade went to McKenna, which just opened that year. And we were there for 1 year, packing up the books, and then at the end of that year, packing them up again from back to Common Road. And that was my last year as a teacher. That was 1959-60. Of course, the next year I became supervisor. But the very next year, they moved the sixth grades back to McKenna, and I was a supervisor for the sixth grades at McKenna. So I've been around the district over these years. Of course, the saddest part of being at Common Road all those years, and then at the end of the 22nd year, the district decided to close a school. And there was a time when we had 1,000, maybe 1,100 students at Common Road, but in that last year we were down to about 500 at the school. So, and you figure geographically that Common Road School, if you know, it is right on the fringe. Across the street is the Amityville district. So I guess for a number of reasons, it was the school to close. And that was not a happy thing for all of us because we had a nice thing there at Common Road School. But it went off, it happened. And fortunately for me, because I was not yet ready to retire, Mr. Alan Crouch, who was principal at Lockhart School, retired the very same year that Common Road closed. So the district shuttled me across town to spend my last 10 years as a principal in the district at the Lockhart School. And I have to say, I couldn't have had a better experience for myself, Common Road and Lockhart School. And finally, someone on the thing you posted, that picture that I had put on Facebook, one of my cousins said, have any of your students tried to reach back to you? Well, yes. Well, and one, Carol knows that, how many years ago was that reunion?
Well, that was in, 98. I'm trying to remember now. Oh, 2008.
2008. Carol, I guess, was being persuaded by some of, because that was the last, that reunion was a class of 66 from
That's a 66.
6 in McKenna. That's the year I started as principal at Harbour Library. But the last class that I taught was class of 60 at Harbour Library, and they were the 66 at Burnett graduating. And they had me go back the next poem school and see if they had a wonderful time. And then through that and other things, I got involved with going on Facebook, and I have certainly reconnected on Facebook. Sometimes, shall I turn it off? Okay, well, thank you.
You know, John said he wouldn't be without Lisa, and I really believe that this man, in his quiet way, influenced so many of us. He was the first calming influence, the calming face we saw getting off that bus as kindergartners and right through 6th grade, at least in our case, right? We thank you for all your service to Massapequa School District. So big hand for John Passano. So at this point, I want to turn the mic over to anybody who wants to share maybe 2 or 3 minutes each. And Maureen, my good friend, I was going to call you anyway. Maureen and I work together at Coco's in the Plank House, so let's do that. I watch tradition. Not anymore, I don't watch traditions anymore.
Well, my name's Maureen. I lived on Linwood Place, Lincoln 17172. And I have an older brother, 6 years older than I am. He's my hero. He was my hero all growing up. And I don't want to brag, but my brother cleaned the monkey poop off the Monkey Mountain at the Massapequa Zoo. Somebody had to do it. So that's my story. And I have so many wonderful memories. Marjorie Post. I did actually go to Carmen Road School for one day, and then my mom finagled my birth certificate somehow and got me into 1st grade over at St. Martin at Tours. So, like I said, lots of good memories, and that's about it. But I love the Monkey Mountain story with my brother. He was my hero, and he used to come home and have to go right in the shower.
Tell us the Plank House Coco's story.
Coco's, yes. Rich and I worked at Coco's. And I was a waitress there for many years. I don't know if anybody's ever been there, probably served you. And that was a wonderful place to work. I have so many great friends from that place. Rich, and one of my best friends, and several girls that dated my brother at one time became very good friends of mine.
Someone here wants to introduce you to that.
Okay.
That lady there, Josie Lee, her son was the lead chef at the Plank House, John down. So
Oh, I know him, yes, John, yes, absolutely. Maureen Scott. Yeah, I set up the Coco's Plank House Facebook page, and he wants to go on there. We're trying, every year or so, we try to get a reunion together, because it was a wonderful group of people, all hardworking, putting themselves through school. It was a great, I used to go home, I had 2 small children when I worked there. I'd go home with a pocket full of change. I paid for their swimming lessons. I mean, I worked my tail off, but it paid off. And my friends, like I said, still have very good friends. Yeah, I mean, we had a wonderful experience. Really, it was a great place to work. One of the best job that I ever had. It really was. It was wonderful.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, it's where the Olive Garden is now.
Yes. Right across from the Monkey Mountain.
Just raise your hand if everyone wants to tell a little story. Pass the mic around. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Annette Aiello. My parents still live on Boston Avenue between Central and Hicksville, not North Boston in North Massapequa, but regular Boston. My dad walked to the Bethpage State Park. He caddied 2 or 3 games and then walked home. And I just can't believe how anybody could do that in the heat. You know, no air conditioning, yeah. So, thanks.
Yeah, that's what we did.
Anybody else? Excellent. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Kenny Gay. I grew up in unfortunate, whatever you say, two parts of Massapequa. I was originally down on Garfield Place down south, and I was there till I was about 10 years old, and I had the Huckleberry Finn childhood. Right on the water, crabbing, fishing, you name it. Came home from school, the shoes came off, I was barefooted and running around all day. My parents got divorced in '78, and my mom and I, we moved north of Sunrise with my sister, and someone here knows her. But anyway, we moved north of Sunrise off of Hicksville Road, so I got to a different part of Massapequa. And down the block, we had Tapapusher, and of course we hung out in the woods down there or whatever. But, you know, being a child of a divorce back then was not the greatest thing. And I was becoming a little rebellious. And I also had to switch schools. I went from Fairfield to Lockhart. And that man right there grabbed me and said, I don't give a crap about your parents being divorced. Behave yourself. He didn't say crap, but he said it in those words. You know, without using those words.
He said it with his eyes.
Yeah. And he straightened me up. Thank you.
Anybody else want to take the mic? Cindy Paulus is that.
Hey, how are you? I'm Dr. Cynthia Paulus. I guess I'm one of these people that ran away from Massapequa, and back in the house that I grew up in as a child, still riding my bike around town, as you all know, because I just found we're neighbors. I want to tell you about these guys, though, because, I mean, what the thing about Massapequa is there's a connection with people, no matter where you are. And I first got to meet these two because of this guy here. He had the Massapequa reunion. It was the career day. And it was the first time I was invited to speak to people. I just came from the beach, sorry about that. And so we were in Massapequa High School, and this guy comes up to me and he just plants a kiss on me. He's a good looking guy. I was like, damn, I don't know who he is, but the kiss I didn't know. And he knew me, and I'm thinking, I know who he is. And we were both in the same class, and we're looking and going, I know who he is. And I'm flipping through this thing. It has a picture of him. He had a hair like long hair, and his name's Steve. And so we've actually gone out to lunch. So we start talking, and Dave was so great, and he arranged this whole lunch at the Nautilus afterward. And that's when I first met you, and you were talking about you wanted to do a book. And I remember everyone was kind of, well, do you have the book here? Yeah, we have to show this. This is really kind of cool. So he was talking about he wanted to put a whole history of Massapequa there. And so that's a really cool idea. And I started meeting these most amazing people who have done incredible things with their lives. I met this dentist, Dr. Elliot Siegel, and 2 weeks out of the year, he shuts down his practice and he works with Doctors Without Borders. I'm going, oh my God, what a great story. And I'm a reporter right now because of this guy right here, Leondell. I took a writing class here when I had a car accident in 2009. I was one of the first writers. And then I started writing for the papers and I started getting published. And so I wrote about Elliot Siegel. Then Steve Biddulph, who was a Vietnam War protester, then started to take interest in this Albert F. Customate. And there was a park there, the Albert F. Customate Park. And he started restoring the veterans' memorials. I said, what a great story. So I wrote about that. All these stories got up on the front page, front page. Interesting enough, these stories I entered in a contest, and I just found out I'm a winner of the Long Island Press Award. All because of this guy, all because of these connections. And then Saladino, last year, he was at the luncheon, and I was thinking, I made this letter from him, it's $75 a donation, and they gave the Nassau County's, the New York State's Woman of Distinction, so I had a big award. This all came from connections. It's like, wow, this is like unbelievable the way it all connects together. And, so that's what's so amazing about this town, because I've gone everywhere. I've gone all around the world. I mean, I've gone from Massapequa, I went to, DC for 10 years, went to college, graduate school, went to medical school in Missouri, then I spent 4 years in the military. I was in Oklahoma, Tornado Alley, then I moved down to Texas. In fact, we were texting to one another when I was literally taking cover in the street in my house because the tornado was like coming over my house. Have you seen any of the tornado stuff that's going there? I was literally, I had a pot on my head and everything. I was like, oh my God, the tornado is coming over our house right now.
You're still texting me. I'm like,
I'm texting. I took my phone, shooting pictures and then texting. I gotta take a picture of this, But it's something that's so amazing about Massapequa, because when you come back here, there is a community and there's a connection that you don't see anywhere else. And a very funny story about Frank Buck Zoo. I actually worked in this rural town, and there's a zoo there, and I used to kind of, on my days off, just kind of hang out there. And they started, looking at the history, and they said, there's this guy from Massapequa. I said, Massapequa? And he actually brought the zoo in Gainesville, Texas. And there's a whole story about Frank Buck, bringing back the live buck. And I was like, I can't believe this. I'm in Texas, rural Texas, and here's a guy connected from Massapequa. So all roads lead back to Massapequa, which makes it so amazing. So congratulations to you guys, because I met you for the first time. Well, actually, Sharon Betts called me and said, here are these people that wrote this book. And I said, oh, I'll read a story. And I'm going, I know them, And then they showed the book, and we are all of us are in the back of this book, and it was just really kind of cool. And Steve Hirschbein, I wrote a story about him, and he said, I love your story. He says, I framed it, it's above my desk. It's more I said, oh, yeah. And I'm like, nah. And he said, shows me on his post, here it is. It's like, oh my God. And he's up like upstate. So, and everyone seems to come back to this town. And it's something that I said, I've lived everywhere, I've lived all over the world. And you don't see that connection, you don't see those kind of community connections the way you do here. And it's just what makes it very special. And the people like, the principals and the teachers who really love the students, who took an interest in the students. And I think that's what really made us great, is that they supported us, they were the wings for the entire weeks. They wanted to make us fly, and that's what was really nice. So congratulations to you guys, nice job.
Anybody else? Go on with the fun? Oh, I'll pass it.
Yeah.
I got you. Thank you.
Hi, Tom Lally. Moved out to Massapequa Park in 1949. Went to the Carriage House, one of my first schools, and over the firehouse. Was graduated in 1960 from high school. I think we were the first class that all 4 years we went to the high school then. I also mentioned music hours. There were two types of people. You either liked the music hours pizza or Dick Doris pizza. That was the dividing line back in the day. I was the first busboy at music hours. Also worked next door at a drugstore and delivering. And if you delivered on Friday night, you got the car to Saturday. That was really great. Went to Farmingdale. My first year there, about half the time I had a hitchhike from Massapequa Park to Farmingdale. It wasn't driving yet. Again, the house we moved out to was on Tricana, 221. I still go there now. Bill Topher is my brother-in-law, married my sister Karen. They bought the house from my mom. I've missed one Christmas up here since I moved to Florida 40 years ago. And when I come up to visit, I get to stay in the same room I grew up in. Talk about memories. Just so many things. And it's a place that you see so many friendly faces. We were at one of Bill's boys, Kevin, his twin daughters had a first communion last week. And they had the reception over the VFW hall in Massapequa Park. And I'm sitting there, and this man comes over to me, and he says, are you Tom Lally? I said, yes. He graduated with me in 1960. He remembered. We're having our 55th reunion, I think, coming up. So, but it's great coming back after being away 40 years. I'm back every Christmas and summertime, and I think you can put a plaque in the room for me. Well, not my meeting, I wanted to. But anyway, it's a great place to be from, and really happy.
One more. Wait.
Okay, you know what? I'm not really gonna talk about my my Massapequa experience, but I just wanted to tell you it's 10 minutes until closing. So we might want to let the piano player play really fast or something. I don't know. Maybe you could do double time. But yeah, I just wanted to tell everybody that I'm glad that Rich and Lisa were able to come down today. I think it's been really great. I think everybody's really enjoyed it. And on an unrelated note, I got flyers here for the Strawberry Festival for the Historical Society. If anybody wants to take one, I'll leave them right here. And I just wanted to thank you guys. So thanks, tons.
Thank you. Thank you all. Real quick, wait, you can take a seat over there on the bench. We don't miss a second of yours.
Wait, let me just tell you one thing.
We have a couple of few announcements though.
Let me just do a quick announcement.
Yeah, I want to.
Please. There's another book floating around somewhere. These books, we gave copies, one copy to Central Avenue, we have two, the two that were floating around. Yes, but the two, these are for here.
Fantastic.
So that
Put it in the
people
collection
can,
so
yes,
people
so
can
people
take
can,
it.
anyone who's interested in purchasing it, talk to me afterwards and we'll make arrangements. Okay?
And if
Yeah.
you want to, there is a waiting list for books, so if you want to like go on the waiting list, you can. It'll take us a few days to process these, like if you want to take it out.
And if you want to just outright buy it, we are discounting it for anyone who's here. So you just talk to me afterwards. Here's Wade.
Just a couple of quick closing notes. For more information about the book, this is our website. It's actually a Facebook page. Listen, we're almost at 1,000 likes. We'd love for you to help us get there. We're at 930 right now, so it'd be great. Lisa and I are selling prints at richklein.zenfolio.com. We're exhibiting at the Central Avenue branch until May 31st. In August, we'll be at the Astoria Bank on Park Boulevard. And there's some information that we'll leave up on the screen while Wade's playing. Thank you all so much for coming. And I am going to now turn it back to Massapequa's wonderful piano man, Wade Preston.
Want to tell you quickly, I have a country band now, and we're going to be performing at the John Engelman Theater in Northport on 28th.
Shotgun Wedding was the name of the band.
And we're also going to be at Eisenhower Park on July 3rd at the Lakeside Theater. And that's the Moving Out Band. That's the Billy Joel thing. So I'm going to play something quick, and this is about the quickest thing I know.
Thank you all for watching.